Hi everyone and welcome to TrouTalk. This is the first episode of our new podcast. I'm here with Jordan, who's our technical lead. Jordan's been with us now for 5 years and he's someone that a lot of our customers would have interacted with. So thanks for joining us, Jordan.
No problem.
And I'm Mario. I'm founder of TrouDigital. I've been working in the digital signage industry now for about 11 years, so a good portion of my life now. But this podcast will hopefully give you some insights into what we do and what we can do that you're not familiar with at the moment. So this podcast's been a long time in the making. Just want to say a few quick thank yous. First to Luke and Jemmy for persuading us to do this, for all the hard work of the marketing team, for organising all of this, organising this great set. Thanks for the team at Super Real. Behind the camera, we've got Maddie and Hannah, who'll be stepping in if we need them. But for the first guest, I couldn't think of anyone better to have than Jordan. He's been with us for a long time now. Thanks for being the first guest, Jordan.
No problem at all.
If you are really a guest.
Thanks for having me.
More family. And on today's episode, for the first one, we're going to be talking about everything you don't know about digital signage. We'll be covering a few things that might be jargon to a lot of people, from APIs to event triggers to video walls. So Jordan, I don't know if you want to start by maybe giving us a bit of an explanation into each of those three items before we sort of get started into the main part of the pod.
Yeah, so if we start with the API, so that's basically where we can take data from another program or web server and retrieve that onto our screen. So the way I've always thought about it is the API is like a waiter. You ask the waiter for some information, your order, it'll then go to the kitchen, which is the web server, and then it'll return with what you asked for. So that's how we get the data from.
It's quite a nice way to describe it. Did you come up with that?
No.
ChatGPT?
No, that's probably how it's mostly described, as like a common explanation for it. Yeah.
Very nice. And video walls, I know they're really frequently used. A lot of people will probably interact with a video wall most days. If you're traveling up and down the country at service stations, you'll probably see menu boards, or if you go to a McDonald's or a KFC, you'll see menu boards which are video walls. Do you want to just explain what they are and how they work?
Yeah, so think if you've got 5 screens in a row next to each other, but they're all acting as one large screen. So you can have going from one image across all 5 screens to 5 different images all showing on the different screens, and it's that sort of combined element that makes it a video wall.
Yeah, so having like one big video of a burger, for example, going across all of the screens with the lettuce landing and, you know, a nice cold beverage next to it, to then having the individual menus on each of the screens. Okay, exactly. That makes sense. And event triggers is something that we would love our customers to use more because it's such a powerful feature. Do you want to just go into a sort of a brief explanation of that and how they work?
Yeah, so event triggers are sort of what it says on the tin. It's triggering content based on an event. So that can be anything, whether it's a touch screen and somebody touching the screen, that's the event that triggers the content. It could even be down to physical buttons, things like weather, things like that, temperature sensors, even motion sensors triggering different pieces of content. And
that's where, if we wanted to tie all of that together, you could potentially have a weather API telling you the weather in London is 20 degrees, that then linking to an event trigger to say, if it's above 25 degrees, let's say, play the Frappuccino advert on the screen. And then that could be played on a video wall to trigger a nice big piece of graphic on all of those screens.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool. Thank you. So we were talking in the office before we started about the ancient pyramids and how they've potentially got structures. That naturally got us leading on to technology and what sort of technology they might have had to do that.
Yeah.
But then it got us thinking about the way signage has sort of changed over the years you've been with us, which is about 5 or 6 years now. I guess first, like, where have you seen the technology change? You started really, I think, just before the pandemic, and you were helping us setting up media players.
Yeah.
And how you see things have changed over those couple of years that you've been with us.
So firstly, on the media players themselves, when I first started, they could barely handle scrolling text, maybe one video.
Yeah.
Nowadays, you can have live dashboards on there. You can have lots of different content all running at the same time, and there's no stuttering or anything. So firstly on that, and then also on the software side of things as well, there's just so much more we can do now than we could back then. It's not just images and videos anymore. It's sort of opened up a whole new world of content.
Yeah. So this is the greatest digital signage podcast in the world.
Yep.
So we're going to try and live up to that hype by going through a couple of different segments today. This is the first podcast. So it's going to be a bit of a general dive into the world of digital signage. I guess the first thing that we want to discuss is content triggers. It's been a feature that has been available to a lot of people over the years, but maybe slightly underutilized.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you wouldn't mind just explaining really what content triggers are, and then maybe we'll have a quick chat about how they can be used and then what the future is maybe for content triggers.
So content triggers does what it says on the tin. It's triggering content with external sources, basically. So if you want content to play at certain times, maybe you don't want to have to schedule that manually. You want an external input to trigger that. Say something like a hot sunny day, you want to trigger a piece of content that reminds everyone to drink enough water.
Yeah.
We can actually trigger that using weather. So if it's a hot day, it will play that content automatically.
And how would it pull in the fact that it's, say, 20 degrees? Obviously, you understand how that works, and I understand how that works. Maybe explain how we're pulling in that weather and how that sort of integrates with the signage system.
So there's a couple of ways we can do that. It's either using like a online resource that will have that data. They've got weather trackers, that sort of thing. Or you can even use a temperature gauge plugged into the device itself to recognize the local temperature of that area and actually do it based on that. Yeah,
so we've been working on some really cool projects over the past year or so using these types of event triggers. We've also been using lots of cool electronics to be able to plug in external interfaces. Is there anything that you would see as your favorite event trigger that we've done over the past year or so that has allowed us to maybe do a bit extra for our customers that you haven't seen before?
So even just in the office, the ones we've got going on in our office are amazing. We have ones based on new leads coming in, new support tickets, that sort of thing. And even messages that we type into our internal Slack channels. So we can send a message and it changes all the content on all the screens around the office.
And I think really that's something that not a lot of customers... I think a lot of signage users might see the event trigger, lift and learn, all the traditional types of event triggers. But for us, it's really how we can use them internally and how we can then use them for our customers. So in our office, obviously, we've got an event trigger that allows us to pull in data from Gmail. So when we get a notification, especially for you, like with support, that will go directly onto the screen, which I think is a really good use case. I guess leading on from that is how we can potentially use AI to enhance that. I don't know if you've got any thoughts around that and how we can use AI to sort of enhance the benefits of event triggers.
Yeah, so even just typing in a message in Slack, like send a poster to the screen that shows this information and letting AI do the rest. I think that's sort of where it's heading in the future. And that's really exciting. It sort of removes the need for having to actually think about the design, having to spend time making that design, and you can just sort of say what you want to appear and there it is on the screen. Yeah, nice.
The second segment that we were going to discuss was custom dashboards. It's something that we've looked at as well for a number of customers. Just wanted to find out a bit more about custom dashboards and how you see that working on a number of screens that we've deployed recently.
Yeah, so this is really useful. Things like Power BI, Tableau, even your own custom dashboards that we can connect to using API triggers. It's really useful. It's having data that you want to see available on those screens. It's just amazing. People don't always have access to their phones. No. They're not sat on work computers. So getting that data visible to as many people as possible and not having to replicate the data as well. You've already got that data somewhere. You don't want to have to then remake it to show on the screen. So if we can connect to Power BI or any of these other integrations, then we can just show that data.
And I think now just pulling in data from any app that a company uses, like you said, we don't want to replicate someone else's workflow.
Yeah.
So if we can pull in data from an external app, that allows us to create a really nice custom dashboard. And I think now it's so easy to create custom dashboards with different data. That makes life a lot easier for you, our team, and I guess the customers team as well.
Yeah.
It sort of makes me think back to like all the different projects that we've done over the years. I remember one of the first projects we deployed was for estate agents, and how we can integrate in with their live data feeds and how much easier that's become.
Yeah.
It also makes me think from a hardware perspective as well about how tricky it was to just get two screens to sync together, maybe even 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I remember one estate agency installation that we did in central London for a really prestigious group of estate agents, where they'd had marble tiled flooring installed in their newly refurbished office, and they actually wanted both screens to be synced together, not running individually.
Yeah.
And the panic I had when I realized that they wanted, or they needed, two media players to sync together as opposed to one feeding both screens. And then them telling me that they have to drill a hole through this marble flooring. But anyway, that's a side story maybe for another day. But yeah, I think the fact that we can do these types of new dashboards, obviously now we've got a lot of teams still hybrid working, and the ability now that Microsoft just launched to have Signage published as part of a Teams channel.
Yeah.
Could you just tell us a bit more about that and how that potentially works and how that could benefit some teams? So
that goes back to the not wanting to repeat somebody's workflow. If you've got your intranet, you're sharing data on there, you'd like to have that on the screen without having to replicate it. So being able to take that data and show it on the screen as it is.
Yeah, I think it's Microsoft probably read the room a bit there by being able to integrate digital signage. There's lots of ways in which you can do it with Teams now, but I think the easiest way is to use like a web player and then have that embedded as part of a Teams channel. And what that means is, I guess when people aren't using Teams and they've just got it open on their computer, they'll be able to see any internal comms messages that are being displayed. I just wanted you to talk briefly about Power BI and how we can now use our screens more effectively, integrating in with Power BI. I know people know it for its reports and its dashboards, but maybe talking about what we can do beyond that and having maybe just some text-based items or linking with a spreadsheet where it was far more difficult in the past to integrate spreadsheets. Yeah,
Microsoft make it notoriously difficult to connect to things like Excel. So Power BI is sort of the bridge between that and the signage. So we have native integration with Power BI. You can show your dashboards on the screen, but it doesn't have to be a report or a dashboard. It can just link directly to an Excel file. And it's live updating. So if you have a spreadsheet that you're constantly updating and people need to see that information, updating it just there and then having it show up on the screen as well in a couple of seconds is really useful.
Yeah, and I think that's really useful. I think Microsoft obviously has a lot of great things, but they also make it difficult sometimes for us to be able to showcase content easally on screens. But the way they've integrated Power BI with things like Excel makes it much easier. And also just being able to... Can we show Word documents as well?
Yeah.
We can?
Yeah, we can show Word documents.
Okay, so that would be an easy way to show Word documents. With Google, obviously, it's slightly easier because you can publish docs to web and Google Sheets, which makes life a bit easier with us being able to publish that. But we've got native integrations with Google Sheets. Does it have? We don't have an Excel native.
Not with Excel, no. But with Google Sheets, that's really good.
Yeah. And I think also we should talk about the hardware side of things because, like we were talking initially about the hardware, it was really difficult to show these types of web dashboards on screen in a way that was quick and easy for customers to do.
You'd need a super powerful device, which was expensive and large.
Yeah. So I think in the past you were looking at a PC to run these types of web dashboards, where now you can run Power BI dashboards as you would do on a PC on an Android device or like a Chrome OS device, for example, really easily.
Fit in the palm of your hand.
Yeah, and I think Chrome OS devices were massive when you first started. I think they were sort of not desktop size, but they were big devices that were difficult to. Maybe Hannah, if you or Maddie, could you grab us a Chrome OS device to? Thanks. Yeah, so this is a Chrome OS device now. And because these run on Chrome, that makes it much easier to show this type of web content and much quicker. And these, like we were just saying, were much larger. But this one will fit behind the screen and obviously have all the great benefits of a Chrome device. But also now we've got devices that we've bought with 7 or 8 HDMI outputs that are running on Android, which is crazy to me. I think that was this is going to be a very sad dream to have, but a dream of mine was always to run a video wall natively on Android. And just a conversation that I had with a supplier at ISC, and us finding a piece of hardware that can support that is amazing. That's made life easier, I guess, for you supporting video walls. If you just want to go into that a little bit or double click into it a bit.
Yeah, so similar to what we said before, it used to be a huge PC, really expensive, really large, used a lot of power. Now it's just one small Android box, similarly sized to the Chrome box. And you can run 6 screens off it natively. And
yeah, and that's crazy to me because when we first started, I think a video wall processor or a PC that's capable of running video walls was maybe £2,000 to £3,000
easily,
and now the cost of that is about 500. Which has gone down an order of magnitude over the past couple of years.
Huge. They had massive fans on, so you could hear them at next room over. And now we've got a fanless Android PC that does the same thing.
I think we should probably take 3 steps back because we're geeking out slightly about video walls and just explain what a video wall is. For anyone who doesn't know, that's when you have multiple screens linked together. I think the way people have gotten around that, and them being used as one big canvas, so you could have a piece of graphic going across all of the screens or individually on each of those, and you'll most likely see them as menu boards, maybe in service stations or at places like McDonald's or KFC. But now, and I think the way people have got around that in the past was by syncing individual media players, and what that means is that you would sync individual screens together, so you'd have to cut an image into 3 if it was 3 screens, and then make sure they were synced together to give the illusion of one big graphic. But now with the hardware enhancements, you could just create one presentation.
It does it for you, and
does all of that for you. Yeah, because it's been, we've gone to service stations up and down the country and seen video walls out of sync.
Screen 2 playing on screen 3, they're not in the right order.
And I think that's obviously only things that probably we would pick out on a menu board, but for the people managing that content, these hardware enhancements make that way easier. I guess we can't start a podcast without talking about AI. We've touched on it slightly. Is there anything that sort of struck you as the key benefit of AI in signage? Do you think this is still such early stages? Like, again, we were talking in the office just this morning about the new features that OpenAI have launched on image editing, and how that could potentially benefit some of our customers with us integrating AI tools into the studio in the coming few months. What do you think about AI at the moment? Is it too early to say? Should we take small steps using AI into each individual project?
I think small steps is definitely the right approach, but we're finding a lot of value in it ourselves, and I think it is the way that the industry is going. Certainly with image generation, I think at the moment when you think of AI image generation, you can kind of tell it's AI. The text doesn't make any sense. People have 9 fingers on one hand, that sort of thing. But we're actually sort of getting past that point now to being able to type in a message of what you want to show on the screen, and it will create you a lovely piece of content based on that, with the text all looking normal. And I think that's the next step, and I'm really excited for that.
And I think a lot of what people think the use case for AI would be in signage is the sort of content creation. But for us, it's more of the back of house developments that it's given us. So us being able to support our customers better, maybe bridging the gap between the data that we can get from a media player and providing that to our customers in a more readable and easy to digest format.
Yeah.
Like I know you've worked on a project where you can now pull off all of the data from a lot of their screens and give them data insights into those media players that we weren't able to before.
Yeah, absolutely. So it can tell me what are the problem media players. So if there's a particular site where the screen goes off every day at 5:10, then the AI is smart enough to be able to tell them that it's probably someone just switching off at the end of the day, and then the person in the morning isn't switching that back on. But that's the kind of thing that would have gone months without even anybody figuring that out. So to have those insights is really, really useful.
Yeah, and I think just even being able to give that to the customer is a big benefit. And for us to not have to spend time figuring it out, we can now in natural language ask an LLM what we want it to send to our customers. And we can do that on an individual basis, which makes life really easy for us, but also gives our customers great insights. Did you see anything cool with AI at ISC, jumping to ISC? I know it's a few months ago now, or a month or so ago now.
Yeah, was it LG or was it Samsung who had
I think it was LG.
LG had the wall, and that was really cool. So you'd go up, you'd take a photo, it would create like a little AI avatar of you, and it would send it up to this giant LED screen with individually rotating panels, and your little character would appear up there, and that was really cool.
Bit of your blue still moment.
Yes.
I think what we'll do, we'll cut in the image of ISC and Jordan's great image on the huge LED. Was there anything else that captured you at ISC? I know we've sort of got a bit of a joke in the office around ISC just being bigger and bigger LEDs with smaller and smaller pixel pictures every year. Yeah. Was there anything that sort of caught your attention and that made you think that the technology is moving in the right direction?
Yeah, some of the things where it was like the false 3D screens, I found those really interesting, where they'd have sort of two screens at a right angle, and viewed from a certain point, it would look like the content was going outside of the boundaries of the screens. That was amazing.
I think that was Samsung with their sort of ultra fine LED displays. But yeah, that's really cool.
That was so cool.
And I think also the transparent LEDs were really nice, because it means people can still have a sort of traditional shop front whilst having an LED displaying content on those screens. Did you see anything from a software perspective, or sort of an additional piece of hardware perspective that you think would be beneficial for any of our customers?
I saw something, we've sort of tinkered with it a bit in the office already, but things like cameras with trackers to give you insights into who's actually viewing your screen. Yeah. I saw some really cool examples of that. So it can tell you rough age, rough gender, rough like even emotions. You can tell that people are excited when they're looking at this piece of content, or people are maybe not so interested in another piece of content. And that data is just, it's crazy that we can even get that. Yeah. And
I think a lot of people, although we joke about the incremental updates of the technology, these small updates are actually making life much easier for us and much better for our customers, because although it's a tiny pixel pitch update, or the resolution of a camera might get slightly better, it means maybe we can pick up someone's face a bit better on a camera. Obviously, this is all anonymous, but it just means that the insights maybe one of our retail customers might get is just much better than it even was a year ago, to then drive better decision making within some of their retail stores.
That's always sort of not been a problem, but one of the hurdles of showing signage on a screen is that it's one way. You don't have any of that sort of information coming back to you. And people in the past have used QR codes, maybe even forms on a touchscreen to get some feedback. But having that sort of live feed of information coming back to you about how your content and your screens are performing, that's incredible.
Yeah, and I think the fact now you can get 4K cameras, on, the iPhone's had them for years now, but you can actually buy similar sized cameras and just place them above a screen so they're sort of hardly noticeable, but also mixing in that data input again with AI to give each of our customers a bit more of an insight into how they can place product in a window or even just how people are interacting with screens.
Yeah,
I think another thing that was big for me at this year's ISC was the fact that outdoor displays are becoming a bit less cumbersome than they used to be. We've got a number of projects coming in the next few months where we're installing lots of outdoor displays. In the past, they used to be big and chunky with big chins and big foreheads. Now they just sort of look like a normal screen. Was there any outdoor screens that sort of took your fancy and looked like they would be much more usable?
I can't remember the name of the brand in particular, but there were some that were almost indistinguishable from the indoor ones where they're sort of quite thin but still have that weatherproof element to them that you can leave them outside. And I think that's huge for us, like having screens outdoors where normally they sort of need to be inside, then that's a really good thing. Yeah,
and I think just small updates in technology have made outdoor displays much easier to use. I think you can even get fanless outdoor displays now, which means there's far less to go wrong with them, which again makes life for us a bit easier, having to install screens without fans. I guess the next thing we should discuss is where you see the future of signage. I know we've touched on a couple of subjects. This is just the first episode, so I guess we'll get deeper into it and maybe invite some guests on who want to talk about specific areas. But I don't know if there's something that you've thought about or that you would like to see with technology that might be coming that would make life easier for us or boost the improvement of signage or the efficacy, I guess, of signage to our customers.
I guess I'd go back again to that sort of two-way interaction, even doing it with touchscreens, having sort of the ability to communicate both ways rather than just sending an image out and hoping people have seen it. So I think that's where I'd like to see the improvements come, is on data capture, on interactivity, QR codes, things like that, where people can send messages back rather than it just being one way.
And I think, again, with APIs, we can now develop external apps that would allow our customers to really quickly sync up content with screens in a useful way. If it's an emergency or if they just want to notify teams or employees about different items, having use of an API makes life much easier.
Yeah, we demoed to a big hotel recently, showing them some sort of emergency procedures where they'd have something they could trigger the screen with, and it would take over all of the screens with sort of emergency protocols. And again, that kind of thing, really useful. Yeah,
and I think just multi-sensory in retail could be really useful with, again, event triggers that we talked about at the beginning, but having candles that are not only lift and learn to notify you about what scent you might get from a candle, but then integrating in with different pieces of hardware so that you might get the scent come out of a machine so that you can smell that. And I think it's those sort of tiny updates that will allow retailers and also enterprise customers who might want to integrate different things, not obviously selling candles, to communicate more effectively with their teams. So is there anything you want to add additionally to the conversation before we wrap up?
I think just excited to see where it goes from here. So as you said, it's been 5 or 6 years since I've been here, and the changes I've seen in the industry already are really exciting. And it sort of feels like we're almost at the crest of the wave now. It's all going to start happening. I think this is just the beginning, and it's exciting to see where it goes from here.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining me.
That's okay.
I know I'm going to see you in the office in a few minutes anyway, so I appreciate you spending the time to do this. And I hope there's not too many support tickets for you to answer when you get back. But again, thanks to the team for setting this up. I hope you've enjoyed it. We're going to try and get some more guests on in the coming episodes. We think we've decided on a name. We're not sure yet. But hopefully this will be something that we will do once a month, if not more frequent. I know our friends up at Jet2 are doing a really great podcast as well. So it might be that we get some of our partners from there to come and visit. But thanks to Jordan. If you enjoyed this podcast, feel free to like this video. And if there's any topics you'd like to see us cover, doesn't necessarily have to be about signage, then feel free to leave a comment below. We'd love to hear from you. Alternatively, if there's a project you'd love to talk to us about, feel free to contact us on the number on our website.